Welcome to the Startup Sessions, the #1 web show and podcast for trusting your gut, breaking the rules, and starting something meaningful. Featuring in-depth interviews with acclaimed creative entrepreneurs that have succeeded at building their own remarkable businesses. You are going to love today's guest. She had to borrow money to come to a conference in Portland 2 years ago, and this year, well, she was in Portland on stage as one of the main presenters. I've got the one and only Shenee Howard with me, and we're going to get into some juicy topics today, including how Shenee comes up with her endless supply of creative business ideas, getting rid of your horrible clients, how to connect directly with the audience that you most want to serve, and her fascination with Keanu Reeves, Ryan Gosling, and the Backstreet Boys. I love Shenee because she keeps it real, she doesn't mince words, and she serves her clients at the highest level. And I know this because I'm currently working with her on elements of my own business. Get ready to hear the truth about building something from scratch and creating a super successful business in just 2 years. It's all coming to you right now on episode 45 of the Startup Sessions. Hello, everyone. I am so excited to introduce today's guest. I'm speaking with Shenee Howard of HeyShenee.com. How you doing, Shenee?
Great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Shenee is the branding expert for undeniably mind-blowing, awe-inspiring, profitable brands. And I reached out to Shenee about being a guest on the Startup Sessions after hearing a little bit about her inspiring story, as well as some really common sense business building things that she did in her business that I actually have done in mine now. And she was speaking at this event for creative entrepreneurs called Pioneer Nation in Portland. Yes. And so I was like, hey, she's cool. I gotta talk to her more. I gotta have her on my show. Yeah. As it turns out, we're actually going to be working a little bit together.
Yes, our piece of cake prince.
Yeah, for piece of cake prince. I love it. Yes, I'm going to be working with Shenee to get some help with branding and structuring in my business as well. So
yes, very exciting.
Yes, and we're going to kick that off today too. So I'm excited about that. A little bit more on Shenee. She helps people build truly unforgettable brands online. In other words, she really teaches people how to do the right stuff to sell more of what they have to offer, get more clients, and have more fun doing it.
Yes.
That's pretty compelling. Now, there's also some other things, right? You have this love of, let's see, Keanu Reeves movies.
Yes.
Which, hey, that's cool. The Matrix is one of my all-time favorites, I gotta say.
So good in everything. I love him so much.
She's an Atlanta native. She currently lives in Austin, Texas. She's super close to her family. And you talk a lot about the Backstreet Boys and Ryan Gosling, too.
I know. I'm coming off like such a nerd already. I do. I love all those things.
All right. So here's the deal. Shenee went from being, from what I understand, barely able to scrape together enough money to attend a conference in Portland called World Domination Summit a couple of years ago to being one of the keynote speakers at Pioneer Nation in like 2 years.
Crazy.
So you might be tired of telling this story, but it's so good that I'm hoping I can coax you out of it one more time for my audience and my listeners, because I think it's so great and it's compelling that you literally were scraping together money to attend a conference in Portland 2 years ago, and then you were one of the keynote speakers 2 years later. So tell us a little bit about how that happened.
I don't know. I mean, I was, as far as how I got to speak at Pioneer Nation, how that happened, or...
Tell us a little bit about the unfolding of it. Like, give us a picture of, like, what was it like 2 years before, and then... some context.
Yeah, so I started my business in late 2010, but mostly pretty much 2011. I think we all have those couple months where you sort of like think about it, but it's not really a thing we're really doing. And so I was thinking about doing my business. And at that point, when I knew I was going to go to World Domination Summit, I was still pretty early on, and I was super, super broke. I had just graduated college. College was supposed to get you a job and all that good stuff. Not so much. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, and I just knew I wanted to do this thing called, starting my own business. So I started with designing resumes and doing things that I already knew I could do. The whole thing with the resumes is that I was writing so many of them to try to get jobs. So that's the first thing I did. I was like, well, I can do that. And so I did that for a long time, and I just kept doing that. And I was really just scraping by because, when you first started your business, you don't really know what you're doing. You're just like doing your best. And so I scraped enough money to, what I did was I actually did a crowdsourcing campaign, I guess before Kickstarter. I don't even think Kickstarter was really big back then. I just was like, I really want to go to this. This is going to make everything awesome for my business. So I had rewards just like Kickstarter. I put together this campaign, and I raised a bunch of money to go to World Domination Summit that year. And then literally, I guess it was a couple days before I was going to go, I went to buy contact lenses, and I had no money because I experienced what those of us who are a part of the recession call it's a garnishment of wages, where they come and you have something you have to pay. I don't even remember what it was because I was just so strapped back then, and they just take everything that's there. So all the money that I had raised, all the money I had put together was just gone, all of a sudden. And so my family got together, and we sort of scrapped together to get me there. But when I was there, I really couldn't spend that much money and all that good stuff. So that was sort of the scene that was set for, I think that was 2011. And so through that experience, that sort of sparked, other things in me, which I was like, I'm doing this, but I'm not really doing this. I'm not making enough money, which ended up creating the 100 People Project because I had such bad clients that I was working my butt off, and I barely could do anything I wanted to do. I was just sort of getting by. So that was sort of the scene in 2011. 2011 was kind of a rough year. So, but yeah, that's sort of where I started in 2011 is, trying to go to WDS, having a garnishment of wages. And really by the time I left WDS, I had no money. So I was just starting over. So I went back to my parents' house and was like, okay, I guess we have to figure out how to do this again. So it was a really bad period because, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was money that I had earned. I remember there's a client that I was still working with. I didn't tell the story at Pioneer Nation, but when I came back, there was a client that I was still working with who had already paid me everything. And I was having to do all these extra changes and all this stuff. And so I was still working with her, and I wasn't even getting the money to do it. So I was just ugh, nah. So it was horrible. It was horrible. So that's sort of where it started. That was a little long-winded. I hope that was okay.
So humbling beginnings,
right.
to say the least, right?
Yes.
And I think it's important to point that stuff out because a lot of times people, see others like yourself who are successful and their business is jamming and they're cranking along and they're having success. And, the piece that's often missing is there were tough times, right?
Oh, totally.
And
yes.
we all start from these places of, the beginning, the start. Taking the baby steps and figuring it out along the way, right?
Yes.
Okay, so thanks for sharing the story. So, fast forward to wrap things up on this piece that I'm curious about. Yeah. So you're on stage at Pioneer Nation 2 years later.
Yes.
How did that feel to go be telling the story about essentially being broke 2 years before, and then having that experience of being on stage and talking to the audience at Pioneer Nation?
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I couldn't even believe that I was even asked to come. So I was so nervous. Like, I've never been so nervous in my life. I was like in fetal position in the back, like, oh God, I gotta go. Oh God, I'm such a, because, you know, like I was basically the opening act for Laura Roeder, who is like huge and a big hero of mine. And I was like going before her and I was like, what am I doing? And it's not a story that I had told out loud before. It was something that I have written about before, but I haven't really told it in sort of the extent of what was going on at the time. So it was really crazy and I didn't know what to expect. I'm not a speaker. Everybody was saying, oh, you speak? And I was like, no, that was like the first time I've really spoken at an event before. So it was huge and it was a wonderful experience and it seemed to go pretty well, hopefully. And yeah, it was just a weird thing to do. Like I was like walking around Portland because I hadn't been back since 2012. So I went to the first WS and then I went to the second one and I hadn't been back since then. So it was crazy to be back having been on the other side of it as opposed to like in the audience. It was just crazy. And I got to do a workshop too, which the workshop was fine. That's sort of what I do. But being on the stage was just like crazy. So
Well, you did great.
Thank you. It's nice to hear.
One of the things that you mentioned from stage, and I think a lot of people resonated with this, and you alluded to it earlier, was the 100 People Project.
Yes.
And I kind of did a mini version of this, and it's probably one of the most common sense business strategies that's made a huge impact. Probably one of the best things I've ever done in my business, other than starting it.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it was an exercise of really just reaching out and connecting with my audience and finding out what they want versus me trying to guess what they want. And, you know, it seems so like, duh, why would I not do that? But yet, why don't we do that? I don't know. How did the 100 People Project come to be for you?
Well, you know, it for me, and it's become a practice in my business now whenever sort of I feel uncertain about things. But when it originally came up was the fact that I had horrible clients. Like when I say horrible clients, like I think people don't understand. Like I had the worst clients because I was charging so little and I wasn't sure what I was doing. So I had a particularly horrible client. She was awful to me. She like made me cry, and I'm a pretty tough cookie. And she like would like, I'd be in tears. I remember one time she was like, do you even know like how to sell online? And I was like, I'm a copywriter. Like, it was horrible. It was horrible. And so after that experience, I was like, well, this isn't working. Like what I am doing is not working. I'm not happy. You know, I still am at my parents' house at that point. Yeah, late 2011, I was still at my parents' house. I was like, this isn't working. So I did it because I wanted to get more clients that didn't make me want to like throw myself off of a ledge, because I like was like feeling like, is everybody I work with going to make me feel so upset? And it wasn't everybody. And so I was like, okay, so the ones that are awesome, why are they awesome? Like, why are they cool? What is it about them? Because I want more of that. And there's no way to know that or to figure that out unless you talk to them. So that's how it started. It started with me just talking to people who either I worked with or wanted to work with, like people that I saw and was like, you seem like somebody I would really meld with you. And I just kept doing it over and over again, and until the point where it was over 100. I talked to, at this point, probably over 300 people in the last 3 years. And what it does is it just makes it so that I created my first big offer, which is my class, Hot Brand Action, was created based off of those conversations, just hearing what people wanted and what they needed and just doing what they say. Like, people compliment me on my copywriting all the time, and I'm like, I'm not really writing anything. I'm just like, telling, just giving people what they've told me. So that's sort of where it started, is I was like, okay, I need to do something different. And through those conversations, I was able to craft something better. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. And that's a great program, and you've got it on your website, and I'll make sure that the link is up there for the 100 People Project, because it's powerful. It's so powerful. And it's something,
it's simple, too. It's so simple.
It's so simple, and
Yeah.
it takes some time, but the time invested, like I'm a connector too, so I love connecting with people, and,
Yeah.
I always encourage people like reach out and like it's the most powerful thing you can do to
Yeah.
try to like figure out what people really want, and then like you said, it's just a matter of okay, now you know what people want, so craft your offers and your message in such a way that you're talking to those people. That's
Exactly.
it.
Just
Yeah.
relay it. You're just like, and some people are afraid to talk to people on the phone, and it's it's an old school skill, but it's so essential. And like being able to sell on the phone makes it easier to sell online and to communicate. So like if you can get that skill down where you can talk to people comfortably, it makes everything easier. And it's a great sort of back pocket. What I teach my piece of cakers is sort of back pocket sales strategy. So something that you're like, okay, it's the middle of the month and I need a new client. You can sort of know that you have something you can do. You can talk to somebody and sell that way, especially if you've been doing the 100 People projects, because I know you said that you've gotten clients for them. It just happens automatically, even if you're not planning to get clients that way. So it's a great skill to have. So.
Yeah, true. And the one thing it does too, I think there's a subset of people that think that, if you start a business that's primarily online, I think that it's easy to get caught in hiding behind the computer screen and just putting things out there and thinking, oh, people are going to buy. And it's, I guess sometimes it happens, but especially in the early stages when you're creating something, it's so important to connect offline as well. It really is.
It really is. It's so important to don't just create something and just like sit there and wait for like the magic to happen, because it usually doesn't work that way. So you have to sort of like extend out. So
yeah, cool. I love it. And you have a process which made the whole thing easier for me. I started right after Pioneer Nation before you released the process. And so I bought the 100 People project, and it was like way easier once I was like, oh, okay, you should do this, and here's how you can track your your responses and stuff. So I encourage people to go and actually buy the 100 People project. I think it's like $50 or something like that. It's the best $50 easily that I've spent on my business in all of 2014.
Oh, yay. So you'll get the money back a bazillion fold. Like you'll get clients from it. It just happens.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Shenee, how do you come up with the creative ideas for your business?
So they're all from my conversations. So everything that I've created, we'll even take Piece of Cake for example, was based off of feedback I had gotten from other products or services or 100 People projects, just listening to what people are doing. I am a spy. I stalk everyone. So many people get sort of like, eyes on your own. They say eyes on your own paper because, people look at what other business owners are doing. And I think the best skill that I can give people to do is to, instead of looking at what other business owners are doing, is to stalk your customers hardcore. You get so much information from them just by following what they're doing, reading their blogs, responding to their tweets, being there for them. And that's sort of how I get all my information. Is I don't, I'm not idea. The 100 People project came from the fact that during the party after Pioneer Nation, everybody came up to me and they were just kept asking me the same questions. I didn't have any plans of making that a product, which seems stupid now, but I had no plans to do it. And once people I just went back to the my hotel room that evening, and every question anybody asked me, I wrote it down and then I outlined it and then I started working on it. And so that's what I do. So if enough people are for example, I have a new product that's coming up because I was promoting Piece of Cake and I was talking about this idea of baseline income, which is, having income while you're learning. And I got so many questions about it. And I was like, okay, well, this is something else I'm going to create. So it's just that easy. I don't ever I'm like, what are you going to do, Shenee? I just sort of pull from what's already there. So.
Yeah. Okay, that's exciting. I mean, baseline income is a big one for so many people starting out too. And I don't know if you can elaborate on your project at all, but it's such a huge issue. All the clients that I've worked with, creating that baseline income is God, it's like, I don't know why it's such a tricky thing for people, but it just is. It's so any light that you can shed on that subject for the listeners here would be fantastic. Yeah.
Well, it came from just the process of piece of cake and having, so like I said, I told you, I'm always learning. I'm not perfect. No business is perfect. But realizing that one of the things that was keeping some of the piece of cakers back was the fact that they were so worried about money. And it's impossible to do both. Like, it's impossible to sort of put things in place for your business and be super stressed out about money. So what baseline income is what I call, it's almost like a mini day job type thing, where what you're doing is you're doing what you already know how to do. So for example, if you want to be a writer and you want to write books about food or something, whatever, and you sort of are like, okay, right now we're working on writing books about food, but in the meantime, a killer skill I have is editing, or a killer skill I have is writing bio pages, or I'm really good at social media. Like, putting your shingle out and doing that for people in a small way, just for a small amount of time so that you have money coming in. This is something that's supposed to be really easy for you to do. Keep it super simple. Don't make it hard to sell. It could be anything. Like, I have somebody who really likes walking dogs, so she started like a dog walking service, which seems silly, but it makes it easier for her to listen to me and to implement some of the stuff, because she knows that if she ever needs money, she can go to this rich person's house and like take care of their dog or like walk the dogs in her neighborhood, because that's around where she lives. And it just makes it way easier, so that if a launch happens, and launches are unpredictable, and if it doesn't work, it's not like, I'm going to the poorhouse, food stamps. It's more like, nothing wrong with food stamps, by the way. We all do what we have to do. I'm just saying, instead of feeling like you have to go there, it's more like, I have other options. Okay. So that's what baseline income does, is you're not doing what you love right now, but you're doing something that you can do that's easy for you, that makes you money, so that you can create better space for you to do what you love.
Okay, yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's I guess it kind of, it gets you full on into being an entrepreneur, and
yes,
you get to get your chops that way, and it bridges the gap without the stress of feeling like you said, oh boy, if this launch doesn't work, then I have to go back and get a corporate job or whatever the case may be, right?
Exactly. Sweet. And nobody wants to buy from people. I remember one time I was talking to somebody, and she was like, well, I'm doing this because I have credit cards to pay. And I was like, nobody gives a shit that you have credit cards you have to pay. What does that have to do with me? So, like, I think people get in that mindset of, like, I'm broke, so therefore everybody should pay me or should care. And absolutely not. Like, that just makes me want to pay you less.
And that's such a good point, Shenee, because the fact, like, I think to myself probably every day at some point, nobody like cares what I have to offer. They really don't. Right. It's up to me to create my business such that I connect with the right people. Because at the end of the day, nobody cares about my podcast. Nobody cares about what I do, because they've got their own lives. That's just the way it is. It's no big deal. So it's up to me to get better at connecting with people and offering things that are useful for people.
I think with the culture around entrepreneurship, there's this culture of, celebrity around entrepreneurship. So we see somebody who has something, like they have a business model that we have, and they Instagram, and they do all these things. So a lot of my clients, or a lot of people I encounter, think that they're sort of like deserving of it. There's like this culture of like, I've done this, therefore I deserve this. And it's just not the case. Like, I feel like that's one of the biggest problems with entrepreneurship, is that we're so busy selling the dream that we're not creating realists. We're creating people who just are going to be frustrated all the time because they're like, I don't have this way, or I don't have it this way. So that's a big thing, is to like know that you're not deserving of anybody's money. Like, it's a big deal for somebody to pay you any amount of money, like $10. Yeah. You get for $10, you can get Starbucks, you can get a bunch of things at the Target, like the front of the Target thing, you get all sorts of knickknacks. Like, giving somebody $10 is a big deal. And so it's not, I think because internet money is so easy, so it's like, oh, PayPal or whatever, we think that it doesn't matter. But like, for somebody to give you $20, $30, or $40, or even $50, like my 100 People Project, it's a big deal. So and it takes time to get that. So I think it's easy. That's why baseline income is good, because it's like you get to make that process easier because it's hard. So.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Love it. Well, then we'll all look forward to that new offering coming from you.
Today, yes. Well, you learned it today.
Cool.
Yes.
All right. So quickly here, best way to build a loyal following?
I think the best way to build a loyal following is to be present and be accessible as what feels good to you. I think right now, it's nice to have an automated business, but when you're first starting, it's nice to have people feel like they can connect with you in some way, and just create a structure for it. So whether it's a Q&A or office hours, any type of way where people can be like, I'm talking directly to you at least once a week is a great way to build a following. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It could just be something simple. So.
Yeah. Okay, great. How do you decide on like a niche or a direction or a place to start versus just I'll let you riff on that for a second.
Yeah, I think you just it's experimenting. So you pick a group that you like, and then you work with them until you don't like them anymore. Like, you just get tired. That's how it works. Like, I've had a subset of people that I used to work with and I don't work with anymore. And it's not that I don't like them. It's just that based off your lifestyle, because businesses are about lifestyle and personality, even more so than money, that it doesn't work. But the only way you can know that is if you try. So you just work with somebody and you're like, I don't like that. That person sucks. And then you try not to work with somebody like that again. That's pretty much the easiest way to do it. I tell people that if you're sort of in the process of niching or figuring that out, to like not invest a lot in your business right away, just sort of experiment or invest in an experience that's about experimentation, but don't buy like a fancy big website until you sort of understand at least the direction you're going into, and that's just through experimenting. So.
Yeah, cool. I love it. I think it was a couple of weeks ago, Jonathan Fields had a blog about, he's changed the perspective on how he views business to where now he just is in this mode of creating experiments. And it might last a month, it might last 10 years. You never know. But that's the way that he's starting to approach everything that he does in his business too.
That's how I do it too. It's I beta test something, and if I like it, I do it again, and if I don't do it again. And that's the best way to do it sometimes. So
cool. All right. Shenee, what's been the biggest hurdle that you've had to overcome while building your business?
Where to begin? I think definitely, a lot of it is being afraid of feedback. So I've always been this type of person who is petrified of getting bad news. Like I hate bad news. I have like people don't believe this, but I have a overly sensitive personality type. So I'm like super, super sensitive. I don't come off that way. And so like I used to hate feedback. And so what would happen is that I would get caught up in these loops where I was making the same mistakes over and over again, and I wouldn't hear about them until something really bad happened. So that's been a huge hurdle for me, is to just really get used to the idea of hearing bad news. I hate bad news. But in the business, like I said, somebody gives you your money, it's really important. So I was really young when I started. I'm still kind of young, but I was 22 when I started my business. So I was very immature in a lot of the way I did things, and the bad news was a part of it. And so I think being young was a huge hurdle for me, because I just sometimes was not as equipped to deal with some of the big business things that happened. I had never had a job before this. I've never had a boss. So that was a big hurdle. And that's why I always tell people, they're like, you're so young, it's awesome. I was like, I don't think it's that much of a benefit to be 22 and like be dealing with so much money. So I think that was a big hurdle for me, is just that. So.
Okay. Got it. All right. What was the turning point for you, Shenee, when you looked at your business and you said, oh my gosh, it's working. I think this thing's really going to work.
Never. No, I'm just kidding. Probably after the first Hot Brand Action that January, after the 100 People Project, and I first decided to launch. Sorry, that's my dog. Decided to launch my first thing. It was the first time I was like, well, actually, I might be able to do this. Like, this might work. So, I mean, I still have even moments now where I'm like, I don't know. So it never stops. But that was probably the first moment where I was like, yes, I can do this. This is gonna work. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Cool. Great. Let's go into the lightning round of questions that I like to ask my guests.
Okay.
Shenee, what's been the most influential book for you?
Oh, Made to Stick. I forgot the authors. It's the brothers. It's a book about sticky ideas. It's a great business book. It's amazing.
All right. Cool. Best conference or industry event and why?
I liked Pioneer Nation a lot.
Okay.
Not that I'm biased or anything. I'm just kidding. But, I just thought it was a great event. It was small. It was intimate. I thought it was great. Yeah, the workshops were great. So.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Most effective strategy for growing your business?
100 People Project. Talk to 100 people.
Why did I know you're going to say that?
Shameless plug. But really, that's it. That's it. It's the best thing, I think.
Cool. Favorite business tool or resource?
Favorite business tool or resource? Google Drive. I use Google Drive for everything. So yeah.
Okay. Most recent exciting adventure and or favorite hobby of yours, or any combination of those things?
Well, I just started rowing.
Rowing. Wow.
Yes. I've been afraid of rowing for a long time, and I finally decided to start it, and that has been my exciting, most terrifying adventure. So.
Okay. So like rowing, like you get in a boat and you're rowing on the river. Okay.
You get in a very small boat.
Yeah.
A very small boat. You row, and it's just you and the river, and it's been super difficult. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I've launched over 20 times, and it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And like to get myself to the river every day, I'm always nervous. I'm always scared. So yes.
Okay, that's an adventure. I've never done rowing, so.
Oh, you'd be great at it. You seem naturey to me. So.
I know we're kind of opposites in that regard, Shenee, right? I've heard your comments on nature, and you're like, nature? No, thank you.
No. This is the most naturey thing I've done. Is I'm in the water, so I'm fine.
Okay, great. Hey, Shenee, so if you could have, a word of advice or encouragement about entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, because that's my audience, and aspiring entrepreneurs, people that are in a job and they're working, starting something on the side, or maybe they're just getting it going. What would you say to them?
Yes. So my biggest advice is to always remember that this is the internet. We're not curing cancer here. And so it doesn't have to be that serious. If you're starting to do this and, it's easy to want to do it right or to make it perfect and not want to make any mistakes, it's best to approach it in like, I'm gonna F this up. And and then it's going to be okay. So the best thing about the internet, WordPress pages are easy to delete. Everything's easy to delete. You just hit the delete button. So just go in it like that and be like, I'm going to go into this. I'm going to have fun, and I'm going to make mistakes, and it's going to be okay. So yeah.
Cool.
That'd be my advice.
Love it. All right. Shenee, what are you most excited about in your business right now? What's new or fresh, or what's coming next?
Well, Piece of Cake starts today. Yay!
Yay.
So Piece of Cake starts today, and that's exciting. And I'm going to be writing a non-business book. I'm working on it right now. So those are the two big things that are exciting. So.
Okay. Great. Cool. All right. So I'm going to link up your site and all the resources we've talked about. And, go check out Shenee's work at heyshenee.com. And you've got incredible products, articles, like there's so much good stuff on your website, Shenee.
Yay,
so
thank you.
So go check that out under episode 45 at thestartupsessions.com/episode.
45, what a great number.
/45. Yes, we're 45. Cool. All right, Shenee, thank you so much for your time today.
Yay!
I'm looking forward to working with you more here over the course of the
Yay!
next 6 months.
Exciting.
And this has been a lot of fun.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, take care, everyone, and we'll talk to you next week on the next episode of the Startup Sessions. Bye-bye.
Yay!
Well, I hope that you captured some of the business genius from this discussion. I know that I did. I think that the 100 People Project is one of the most simple and common sense things that anyone could do to give their business a boost and allow you to really get inside the heads of your audience. I've used this process and I highly recommend it. And I think we should all have a strategy for dealing with horrible clients, specifically getting rid of them and working with the people that we truly want to serve. And finally, Shenee's strategy about creating a baseline income is both savvy and simple. Trust me, trying to build a business while stressing out about money is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, and creating a baseline income can really take the edge off while giving you room to create something masterful. I want to thank Shenee for sharing so much in such a short period of time. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have an amazing week and live bravely. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to head on over to thestartupsessions.com for a full recap of all our episodes, including links to amazing resources for each guest, thoughtful and provoking blog articles, and many other great resources. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And if today's guest can create a meaningful business and achieve a life of freedom through a business with soul, why can't you?